Rock Solid Wrestling makes its way back down the Mile of Gold and returns to Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the first time in 4 years. Saturday night, August 19th, live from the Northern College Athletics and Wellness Center, it's a night of fights in support of community living Kirkland Lake, featuring Canadian heavyweight champion Scotty the Body, Cody Deaner, Crystal Moon, Tornado, and more. Get your tickets online at rocksolidwrestling.tickit.ca or in person at the Pronto store on Taylor Avenue. Rock Solid Wrestling is back in Kirkland Lake, Saturday, August 19th. Don't miss it.
Hey, everybody, this is your warlord of weird, Sim Bodie, and you're listening to Count It Out with Tyler and Mike and Cookie.
Have Counted Out with Mike and Tyler.
Hey guys, how we doing?
How are you?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for taking my question here. I'd like to ask a question to both of you, actually. I want to talk about the incredible main event scene in Impact Wrestling right now, and just the incredible job that Impact has done in building the credibility of all of its championships. You know, both of you have been such a huge part in helping set the standards of what it takes to become a champion in Impact Wrestling. And on any given night, we can see any champion in that main event spot. So my question is there a little bit of friendly, let's call it competition in that locker room when it comes to maybe the knockouts, the X Division, and that world title scene of who's going to get that main event spot in all those big shows?
Oh, man. As far as competition goes like that, not that I know of. And quite frankly, I don't care. I care about my performance alone. I hope everybody else kills it in their matches too, but if I take my eyes off the prize, then I'm not devoting 100% of my attention to what I need to do. And to me, that's irresponsible. And I think really, truly, it speaks to my work ethic, but that work ethic is reciprocated amongst most of the other champions that I've seen. And again, I don't pay tons of attention to it, but everybody's working their ass off to provide the absolute best in-ring product. And I think that's why Impact, especially this year, is starting to catch some eyes. It's probably the most underrated wrestling product that I've seen in my 30 plus years of being a wrestling fan.
I agree with Alex. I think you never know who you're going to see in that title picture. I think Impact has been very consistent in terms of, utilizing most of our talent, or if not all of our talent. So you never know who's going to have that one opportunity and step up to the plate. And like Alex said, it's, for me, just watching from the outside backstage, and that work ethic is very important and plays a factor, and who wants it the most and who's willing to put in the most work. And Alex waited a long time for that opportunity and he seized it. So who's that next person?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just think it's just a tip of the cap to all you guys. I don't know another wrestling promotion in the world where any champion on any given night can slide into that main event spot and everybody's excited for it. So I just love what Impact's doing. I agree with everything you guys are saying. And you UK fans, we want to hear you singing some Impact Wrestling theme songs as well. Okay, as Canadians, we're proud fans over here, but we want to hear what songs you guys are going to be singing over there. We're looking forward to it. Best of luck, guys. Enjoy the tour.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, we are live. That was a live reaction. We are live, pals. Welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approved Black Label Pro Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. For those of you guys listening on Spotify, I don't know how or when I ended up with this, but I am wearing Mike's shirt that he's left at the house, apparently.
That would have been, I think, I wore that.
It would have been the last Barry show you came.
The last Barry show.
On my birthday.
And I crashed at your place that night, so yeah. That's
Mike, I did not reveal myself on camera until right now, and Mike did not know I was wearing his shirt, which I think is hilarious.
That is amazing.
I'm wearing Mike's shirt, Black Label Pro, great shirt. Josh Alexander's on it, and I don't know what's on there, but
Jake something's on there. Effie's on it.
Nice.
Dan the dad's on there. It's a great shirt.
Yeah, it's a great shirt. It's very comfortable too. I don't know if you'll be getting this one back. But,
you now owe me a t-shirt and a mask, motherfucker.
I still have your birthday mask as well. Well, I haven't seen you, to be fair, since I got it. But that will all
Very
be
true.
changing on September the 9th. Is that correct?
Damn right it will.
Let's
I will
start
not
off.
miss this. Nothing's tearing me away from this show. Even if we didn't have a huge announcement to make about the show, nothing would still tear me away because this is gonna be a big one for Barry, brother.
Well, it's going to be a big one for Canada as well. So we have a huge announcement, and I want to go ahead and just start right off.
Are we counted out?
We're counted out.
Are we the Bill After Seals of Approve counted out?
We are the Bill After. You are Hard Mike. I am.
We went right to the t-shirt review. We didn't do our intro.
I did the intro. I just didn't introduce ourselves. Really? Yeah, I put Bill After in there. I always put Uncle Bill in there. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'm fucking tired tonight.
I don't think so.
Anyways, huge announcement. We are very proud, as always. You know, we've been partnered up with Barry Wrestling for the last 3 years now. 2 years, sorry. This is the beginning of our third year with Barry. Yeah. And our anniversary show was always the back to school show. That was our first one. Yep. And on September the 9th, Mike and I will be doing the very first ever live edition of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler inside the Barry Wrestling ring. It is going to be part of the pre-show, and we are very excited about it. We're working on locking down our guests for it. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but it is a fun guest if we pull it off. And I'm pumped up, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Man, I've been so excited. We've been talking about this for several months. We've been working on the execution of it with Sean Gibson lately. We didn't want to announce this too early, but I've been so excited to finally get to the point where we could announce it. We're just over a month away. Back to school. Sean has a certain image in his brain for back to school, and it's the exact same image that I've had since we started going. And that's back to school is the WrestleMania of Barry Wrestling. It's their big, season premiere, if it were, because indie wrestling in general takes a little bit of a hit during the summer because everybody except for Chops is too busy to go to wrestling shows and they're doing everything else and stuff like that.
So we'll talk about that in a minute.
I know it is. Wrestling shows take a bit of a hit. When everybody's home, everybody's doing stuff in September. Everybody goes to the wrestling shows. Back to school is usually one of the biggest shows that Barry puts on. So we're so goddamn excited to be not only a part of this show because it is our 2-year anniversary with Barry Wrestling, which is special to us alone. But for Sean to trust us and to so graciously just say, guys, do your thing. Like he opened up his doorsteps and said, hey, get in front of my crowd, make and live your dream. I love Sean for that. Sean has always been so good to us, and it just continues. And he supports this podcast as much as we support Barry Wrestling, and I love that.
Yes, and as we get closer to the event, we will be having Sean join us on this show as well.
100%.
That will be confirmed.
Now, before we get to what you want to talk about, and I know you want to talk about a show that you went to recently.
Yeah, personal stuff here, but
if we're going to talk about a great show like Back to School, which we're involved in, we have to talk about another great show that we're involved in, and that, of course, is on August the 19th in Kirkland Lake, Ontario, and we're talking about Rock Solid Wrestling, baby.
Punches, pile drivers, and pinfalls. Another big show coming up here. And of course, your list this week is brought to you by this show. Rock Solid Wrestling presents Punches, pile drivers, and pinfalls. August 19th. Get your tickets now. Show's getting closer. I'm getting excited. There's a lot of great vignettes that our good friend Adam has been releasing over on the Rock Solid Facebook page. A lot of fun little sketch and interviews that they've been doing. A lot of excitement coming in this show. Big main event there. Scotty the Body going up against Tornado for the World Heavyweight Championship for Rock Solid Wrestling. I'm excited, man. I really want to get out to a Rock Solid show soon. I haven't been out to one yet.
it's hard. They're hard to come by, like for us, because they don't come directly in our area, and you and I don't have a whole lot of time for traveling.
Well, they ran
One of these
Wasaga
days,
Beach earlier this year.
they do Collingwood quite often, which is
Yeah.
just outside Wasaga Beach. So I think the best chance for guys like us would be the Collingwood shows. So hopefully next Collingwood show, you and I will get out to. I mean, they do your old stomping grounds quite often. Maybe we'll get up to Sudbury one of these days.
Sudbury Saturday night, baby.
You know, maybe we'll do a Sudbury show. I would have loved to be at the Kirkham Lake show, because that whole area, Kirkham Lake, Inglehart, New Lisker, that's my old stomping grounds. That's where I literally grew up from the age of 6 to the age of 20. So,
some people would debate if you have grown up or not.
Very fucking true.
Not me though, not me.
So I wish I could get up there. No, because you're wearing my T-shirt.
Actually, this is Carl's shirt.
Thanks. Yeah. So I wish I could make it up to that KL show. Though hell, the last time I was at KL show was the show I talked about all the time here with where I got the ref RJ City versus Rico, Montana.
Yeah.
So that's the last time I was at a KL show. So I would love to get up to this one. But it just not to be. But we will eventually make ourselves over to Rock Solid Wrestling, because they are doing some really, really great things, not only for professional wrestling, but for the world in general and their community, because every single red cent from this August 19th show is going to Kirkham Lake Community Living,
Yes.
which is an amazing cause. It's amazing by the guys. You know, I know wrestlers got to make their money. I know promoters got to make their money, but every once in a while to see guys do the right thing and give that money to people who really need it, and especially when it goes right back into your community. Love seeing that shit. Love it.
Yeah, and on this show also, you're going to see one of our favorites, Crystal Moon. She's going to be on the show, as well as Impact Wrestling superstar Diener is going to be on there as well. So it's a big show. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to follow along and keep seeing the matches as they get released.
And a favorite of ours as well, Mr. Uncle Custom has been signed for that show.
Do love me some Uncle Custom.
Gotta love me some Custom, man. Love them. So yeah, big show. Talking about shows, you went to one very recently that I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah,
this is kind of an impromptu show for you, right? You just kind of popped in and you saw some really cool shit.
I mean, yeah, I went up to Beaverton, Ontario, which Beaverton, cool. But I ended up going to Santino Morella's gym, his new gym up there in Beaverton, which is a very nice facility, by the way.
Which, by the way, I knew you were doing. I wish I knew you were doing, because I would have aligned things. My cottage is only half an hour from Beaverton.
Oh, really?
So if I was at the cottage at the time, we could have made that work. But you kind of just called me on the way home, and
yeah. Well, it was a spur of the moment thing. So I'll peel the curtain back a little bit here. I'm sure you've heard us talk about friend of the show and one of my best friends since kindergarten, Wilson. You know, there's
and a man I'm very proud to call a friend because of you.
Yes.
He's a big part of Barrie Wrestling, of my Barrie Wrestling experience. He's been coming to those shows since our second show.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, he's a big part of my while you're being a big star in the fucking ring, I get to hang out with Willie at the table, and you know, it's a lot of fun being with Willie at these shows.
I mean, big star might be a stretch. I am a proud Y-list celebrity in Barrie, Ontario.
I love that.
But anyways,
I don't want to see the Z list.
Well, that's just got Diamond Jim Lowe on it, so. Yeah, that's
shots
right,
fired.
Well, I figure you always make fun of me about Jim, so I was going to jump ahead of the curve this week, but maybe him and John Atlas have been hanging out a little bit. That's different. I digress. Which, by the way, I'm making my return to Barrie Wrestling this Saturday for Kempen Fest. I'm very excited for that.
Your return. You missed one show.
That's right.
CM Punk.
It feels.
I love how you're CM Punk now. You retired yesterday. I'm making my big return tomorrow.
It feels like an eternity ago I was at a Barrie show. I missed the July show. I haven't been to Barrie since June. It's August now. Like that's I'm going through
that.
withdrawals.
By the way, for all you old WrestleMania fans, that's a shot at Andrew Kent, who put CM Punk's return to WWE at his like number 1 or number 2 of Great Returns when the guy was gone for a fucking week.
Yeah, that was not my favorite return.
No.
But anyways, let's get back on track here. So yeah, myself, Wilson, and our other buddy Kerr, we've all been really, pretty much best friends since kindergarten. Like we grew up together. We used to backyard wrestle together. Wilson was nice guy, Kerr was ruckus, and I was mayhem. That was our thing. We used to have these matches. These were ridiculous.
You think it was the 90s or something?
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Well, and I named myself Mayhem because of the Mayhem pay-per-view that I went to.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with it at the time.
Yeah.
But I used to live beside this giant forest, and it had a bunch of trails through it, and probably take you about 20 minutes to walk the trails and come back. And we used to have these matches called Mother Nature matches, which I don't know. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. We just really go in the forest and wrestle all the way up the path and all the way back, and then we just kind of made up a winner on the fly of whoever got to my front door first.
All right, I'm pitching this to Ben Ortmans at Crossbody. Please book Brother Earth in a Mother Nature match.
We had some barn burner, buddy. We got intense in there, man. Those sticks and branches and trees, they didn't have a lot of give to them back in the day, and we were young and stupid. We went to it, but we used to fight all the time. We used to wrestle all the time. We used to do Festivus at school every year. We would, 1 year I brought a turkey into school. We had a Festivus meal. We'd always do the feats of strength. It was big time looked upon, like. Yeah, we just always backyard wrestled either way. So
that was my thing too, man. I did it for years.
Yeah, and Wilson has recently started doing a little bit of training. He did a seminar with Wild Boar and with Eddie Dennis from NXT UK fame. He also did a seminar with Josh Alexander, and he's been going up to Santino's gym and doing a little bit of training. And I got a phone call. I got a message from Wilson on Thursday night. And I guess it would have been Wednesday night, and I checked it on Thursday morning, and it just said, "Hey, what are you doing on Friday?" And I was like, "Oh, I got a lot of shit going on. We're painting my fence in my backyard. Like, I got a pretty full weekend. My mother-in-law's coming up." I go, "Why? What's up?" He goes, "I'm gonna have my first ever wrestling match," and I'm like, "I'll be there."
Yeah,
and I was.
How could you not? Yeah, of course you were.
So I jumped in the car. I drove to Beaverton, and I watched Wilson participate in a battle royal. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. He did a fucking great job. And I'm so fucking proud of him.
The minute you called me on your way home to tell me about it. As soon as I got off the phone with you, I texted him and told him how fucking proud I am of him. And, he was very modest. He's like, yeah, it was only 4 minutes and we kind of bought the spot. I'm like, I don't give a shit, man.
Yeah, but you would have never known.
I don't care if it was only 4 minutes. That's your first 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Your first 4 minutes of, God knows, the rest of the minutes, that's up to you, brother.
Well, and
that's up to you, and
I can pretty much put this on record that Wilson lasted longer in the Battle Royal than he does in the bedroom. So
the disgusting thing is I don't want to ask how you know that, because I know there's a story there.
Actually, no, I don't. Well, I mean, there is the mud story, but that's different.
There's always a story with Wilson. Always.
I can't tell the mud story on air, but I'll tell you off air. And maybe if somebody wants to message me, and maybe I'll tell them off air too. But
we got to make a side podcast just called "Sick Shit with Wilson."
Oh man,
and it's just Wilson telling stories about his life. Nobody has stories like Wilson.
We could like, I know that we're not too far off from our 300th episode. We're only a couple months away from that, or a few months away from that. We could probably fill 300 episodes of just amazing Wilson stories. But
my buddies back home always they laugh at me because I have a lot of ridiculous wild stories from especially back in the day, right? Mine are tame as fuck with the shit I hear about the stray cat Wilson. Oh my God.
He is like a stray cat. You just gotta let him wander, and he always finds his way back home, but he's got a hell of a story to come with it. And I can definitely vouch for that one firsthand on more than one occasion.
Very much like Hi Tyler.
No, I don't know about that.
Listen, I can fuck with drunk Tyler all day long. Hightaler disappears. They have to find him before he spends $500 on a turnbuckle.
Hey, thank you for not letting me do that. That was a big scare for me. But anyways, going back to Wilson. Wilson's he's been such a great part of, like you said, he's been up in Barrie with us since show 2. He's a huge part of doing the ring crew every show. He's done it the right way. He's earned his respect by his.
And yes, his name is Wilson, but he's much better known over there by a different name. He's known as Mike.
Oh yes, a couple of the boys thought he was due for a while when you disappeared.
Several people he thought that he was the Mike and Tyler. And God bless her, a friend of ours, one of the production people, Chrissy. She was swearing to people. She goes, "No, I know Mike. I know Mike's from back home. I know him very well." Chrissy's a Kirkland Lake girl. She goes, "I know Mike.
Mike,
that's not Mike."
It's like Mike is. Okay, well, who? Mike is not that good looking.
They go, Mike does not have a 10-pound hammer.
Around.
They go, okay, well, if that's not Mike, who is it? And she's like, fuck. When I made my return, she walked right up and she goes, okay. She goes, I know who you are. She points at Wilson. Who the fuck are you? Great.
No, Wilson's been great. He holds down the counted out table every month for us when I'm doing the ring announcing and the shows that you can't be there. He's just the MVP of everything. He's the MVP of my world. I love him to death. I couldn't be prouder of him. I do have footage of it. I'm just trying to get approval to release it. I'm not sure if I'm able to or not yet. Okay. But as soon as
Santino's a friend of the show.
Well, it's not Santino. It's somebody else that I'm dealing with. But the show was great. I hung out with Chops there. Our friend George McKay was there doing commentary as well.
Friend.
Well, he's your friend.
Love you, Joe. I don't even know your name. I just called him Joe. Love you, Joe.
That's right. He doesn't listen anyways. But yeah, that was my fun little excursion. And I'm super proud of you, Wilson. I love you, buddy.
Well, I love the fact that the most wrestling that we can talk about right now is all indie leagues. I'm absolutely loving that right now.
Well, let's talk about kind of some sad news, right?
Yeah. Man, when I woke up this morning, I said, all right, what the fuck are we going to talk about on the show today? Because I really had nothing. I didn't have a whole lot. I had a little rant about CM Punk. I might go on, and that was about it. Then I looked at the calendar and I saw it was July 31st and said, shit, today's the anniversary of the death of Roddy Piper, my all-time favorite wrestler. So I said, maybe I'll talk about Roddy a bit. Who knows? And then the hits started coming. Started off with the announcement that Adrian Street had passed away, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then maybe an hour later, I had texted you about Adrian Street.
Uh-huh.
And then an hour later, you texted me about Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens.
Yeah, that one hurt.
That's 2 major hits in the same morning, man.
Yeah, Pee Wee. Let's start with Pee Wee because, anyone that's our age group, I'm born in '84. You're born in '71, right? No, you're what, 82?
81.
No, that's close. Yeah. Anyone in our time period, we grew up with Pee Wee. He was like our childhood entertainment, the word of the day, Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was just wild and wacky shit.
One of the first Tim Burton movies I probably ever watched is Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, great movie. Is that the one with the bike?
Yeah.
I would like to go back and watch Pee Wee's Playhouse and let High Tyler come out for that.
Oh fuck, man!
I don't know if I can handle that.
I've watched them. I've rewatched some episodes. I don't know. We must have been high as kids watching it because, holy fuck, man.
Well, I mean, High Tyler thought that Johnny Swinger was the second coming of Shawn Michaels. So, who knows what he'd think about Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Paul Rubens also was. He played the Penguin's father twice?
I did not know that.
So in the beginning of Batman Returns, back in 92, or 91, whatever it was, he plays the Penguin's father and looks at his disgusting little child and fucking gets rid of it, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was Paul Rubens. Later on, like 20 whatever years later, they do that show Gotham,
Great show.
and guess who played Penguin's father?
That makes sense.
Paul Rubens.
Did you ever watch
So
Gotham?
oh yeah,
I love
great
Gotham. It was a great show.
Show. It's an amazing show. Other movies that I really enjoyed with him. What was that movie? I can't think of the name now. The movie that Ben Stiller did with all the superheroes.
Mystery Man.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of his comeback, right?
Yeah,
because he had to disappear a little bit.
He disappeared after a little bit of controversy in the 90s.
Pee-wee with his Pee-wee. Yeah. We all made those
yeah,
jokes as a kid.
Yeah, but he bounced back. He had a great end of his career.
Well, he did some WWE appearances. He guest hosted Monday Night Raw.
Stuff. Yeah.
And he had a cameo at WrestleMania with The Rock.
He ties into wrestling big time.
Oh, yeah. And also, Lita's favorite movie is Pee-wee's Big Playhouse or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's a huge Pee-wee Herman fan. RJ City was a big Pee-wee Herman guy as well.
That makes sense. If anybody follows our good friend, I counted out, Sin Bodie, if you follow him on any of the socials, you see that today was a bit of a rough day for him because both Pee-wee Herman and Adrian Street were both big inspirations on his character development.
Well,
you could really see that too.
Let's transition into Adrian Street a little bit because I don't think that he has looked back. The last couple of years he started to get that respect, but because
that documentary that came out a couple of years ago really put some shine on him, which is great.
Yeah, that the WWE did, which was fantastic. Highly recommend checking that out if you have not seen it.
Which is funny they put that out because he didn't do a whole lot of time with the WWE.
He didn't do any
WF. No, I didn't think so. Okay.
No, he appeared at Clash of the Castle last year.
Did he really?
Yeah, he was in the crowd. They showed him on screen, no, and then I think they showed him on like an NXT pay-per-view before. But
that makes sense because he's from Wales, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but Adrian, man, he had a hell of a career.
Goddamn right he did. He was a trendsetter. He was a maverick. He was a trailblazer.
Well, before there was Adrian Adonis, there was Adrian Street.
100%. You don't get the Adrian Adonis. You don't get the Gold Dust. You don't get these styles of characters without the benchmark, without the watermark, and that's Adrian Street.
Yeah,
Adrian was doing these things long before anybody else.
I just want to pull up a fact here that I had and I forgot. Adrian and his wife was it Miss Linda?
Miss Linda, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was going with there. You mentioned Goldust. Well, Goldust and Marlena, a direct play off of Adrian and Miss Linda, right?
100%.
Rico and Miss Jackie. They called her Miss Jackie because of Miss Linda.
Because of Miss Linda. I never put that together, but it makes a lot of sense.
Adrian, I was doing some reading. John Pollock on Post Wrestling put up a great piece on Adrian's career today, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about Adrian. His first big break in North America came with Stampede Wrestling.
I did know that.
Where
I read that. Yeah,
I was listening to an interview that he did last year, and he wasn't a big fan of Stu Hart. Thought that Stu was a bully and kind of a grouch and took advantage of people. So he didn't enjoy his time there. But then he went over and he did work everywhere. He had big programs in Memphis with Jerry Lawler, with Bill Dundee, and with the Macho Man before Macho Man jumped to the WWF, which I did not know either.
That's right.
And of course, he did big business with Dusty Rhodes.
I read a cool little tidbit today that I don't know if you know. This is kind of cool. Did you know that he designed and created Dude Loves ring attire?
I did not know that.
For McFoley? Yeah.
No kidding. I did not know that.
I thought that was really cool.
I mean, everything he did was really cool. Like, he was that guy that, he was a badass. Like, he was the shoot tough guy.
100%. That, as you can talk about how he did that, flamboyant, androgynous character. That doesn't mean he couldn't kick your fucking ass. He was a tough motherfucker in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure because of the era that he was in, he was probably a tough motherfucker out of the ring as well.
I I also believe that he was the first person to ever be managed by Jim Cornette.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Him and
That's
Miss
really
Linda,
cool.
because Cornette they would do handicap matches in Memphis,
Hmm.
and I
Going
believe
back
that
going back to Miss Linda for a second, this is kind of cool. They were, you know, a real life boyfriend and girlfriend for years. Like even when they were the valet, whatever. And this is going back to the 70s, right?
they met in the
And
'70s.
they were together forever. It wasn't until 2005 that Adrian finally proposed. Now, do you know where it happened?
I do know where it happened.
At the Cauliflower Alley Club. I thought
Yeah.
that, I was like, how fitting is that?
They had a
I love
surprise
that.
wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Another trailblazing moment there. But yeah, big programs with Dusty Rhodes. He went to Mid South and worked with Terry Taylor a lot. Did Georgian with the Boogie Woogie Man. Like he drew money everywhere he went.
Yeah, an absolute legend. It's always sad when we lose a wrestler, but I'm not going to call this one a tragedy. He lived to the age of 82, and he lived so fucking big. He lived a great life. He should be proud of everything he did in both professional wrestling and his shoot life. And you know what? 82 is nothing to sneeze at. If I lived 82, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just happy he got his recognition before he passed away, too.
1000%. The fact that it kind of came out, and I didn't know about the Cash Castle thing, but the fact that he was there and that documentary came out, that means that there are younger fans that are getting to know him too, and I love that.
Yeah, you know, and like just coming off like watching Dark Side of the Ring last week, like, you know, without, like we said earlier, without Adrian Street, that Adrian Deganis gimmick, like that was a complete ripoff. Vince ripped it off.
1000%.
Did you know Vince offered him to come work for the WWE at one point?
I didn't know, but I'm not surprised.
He turned it down. They wanted him to do like a racist, like skinhead gimmick.
Oh.
And he was just like, yeah, I don't believe in that. I'm not doing it.
No.
And then he never went to WWE.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really the character you want to portray.
No. Let's move on to talk about the reason for the season. Every year I try my best to try to get some a good SummerSlam list going when we get into August. I'll probably still come up with the SummerSlam list before the end of the month, but my SummerSlam list didn't quite come together. I just started watching SummerSlam matches that I really like, and I noticed something that keeps happening at SummerSlam. SummerSlam is the home of the cage match, baby.
There's been a lot of cage matches. See, that could have been your list. Has there been 7 cage matches at SummerSlam?
I don't know if there's been 7 of them. I don't think so.
That could have been your list.
But let me tell you something. We're going to be talking about some SummerSlams today because I am doing my top 7 matches that happened in Old Blue. That infamous blue cage that I'm going to get right into talking. I'm going to talk about the history of blue cage before the list and the background of it and some facts. But I chose, instead of like cage matches, that's too broad of a list. If I was to do, my top 7 cage matches, that's a huge that is a massive undertaking. And then you really got to break it down. What's a cage match? You know, is it this simple set of rules because the rules of the cage matches change here and there? Is it, Hell in a Cell? Is that a cage match? Because if it's not, does the old Bill Watts cage count when it had the roof on it? There's too many variables. So I broke it down, and I'm only doing the big barred blue cages that debuted in 1986. I'm going all the way to the end of it in 2000. I am including the black cage, and I'll explain why I'm including the black cage when I do my background information on the cage. But before we get into my big blue conversation and my list and everything, is there anything else you want to talk about, brother?
I do. This list is brought to you by Rock Solid Wrestling's Punches, Pile Drivers, and Pinfalls, presented on August the 19th.
Love it. All right, let's talk about Big Blue. That is the endearing nickname given to that cage by the boys who work it.
They hated that cage.
I remember hearing that on the Pritchard show. They all call it Big Blue, and you're 100% right. There's not a wrestler alive that likes working in that cage.
Did you ever get to see a Big Blue match live?
Never. Did you?
I saw one.
Okay.
Weird one.
I've seen a few cage matches in my day, but never Big Blue.
Weird one I saw at a house show that and this must have been the last time I think that they ever brought this cage out. Because I haven't seen it since. They did Shane McMahon versus Kane when they were doing their feud. 03? 04, somewhere in there.
Okay, then yeah, because the last televised cage match with the old black cage
Rebellion, right?
Is 2000. Yeah.
Edge and Christian?
Yes.
That was 01. That was 01.
No, 2000.
No.
I just did my fucking list.
Yeah, but the invasion angle happened in 2001, and that's when that match happened. Because Edge and Christian were tag champions in 2000.
All right.
Yes, 2001 was the last one at Rebellion.
Okay. That's the last televised one. So if you thought no 03, they just pulled that out for the shits and giggles because by then they had already, because in 2000, late 99, early 2000, they had already started to slowly transition to the mesh caging end. Mm-hmm. They were doing they were kind of going back and forth, which is what they did originally. I watched a great little mini documentary on the Blue Cage. So I got to learn some stuff. So as everybody knows, the Big Blue Cage debuted in 1986 at WrestleMania 2. The reason being, from a kayfabe standpoint, was they needed a bigger structure to hold in that giant King Kong Bundy.
Yeah.
Also, King Kong Bundy ain't fucking climbing that mesh, man.
Nope.
It's just not happening, right?
Fuck, even Hogan at that point was over 300 pounds of muscle, man. Yeah. That mesh might not have held that.
Yeah, exactly. So they needed something different. So they created this fortified, thick blue steel that gave nothing. Pritchard says that the only structure ever made that was worse than that was the original Elimination Chamber.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. So it didn't take over right away. They would have that match, and then there was a mesh cage match a few months later, and then a mesh cage match a few months later, and then the blue cage came out again, and then there and there. From 1986 to 2000, there's only 25 televised blue cage matches.
That sounds about right. I believe that.
Yeah, there's only now. There's a lot of dark matches that don't qualify for my list because I could not find the footage, and there's a lot of house show matches for the same purpose. If you're at a house show or a dark match, if I couldn't watch it, I can't put you on the list. Simple as that.
That's fair.
Did you know this too? And it's so funny to think about wrestling fans. Everybody thinks that wrestling fans have changed. Wrestling fans haven't changed. They were pieces of shit. They're pieces of shit now. They were pieces of shit 40 years ago.
Fair.
Now everything is like, oh, wrestling's so fucking garbage now. It was way better in the Attitude Era, and they're changing things, and that shouldn't be, and this shouldn't be. Well, how do you think that Big Blue Cage was recepted by fans when it got brought in?
Not right. I don't think it ever got.
Fans hated it. Well, yeah, but now it's romanticized. Now fans of the 90s, I look back and I love the Big Blue. I love Big Blue. That's because that's my childhood.
I think it looks really cool.
People our age will look back and go, I love the Big Blue Cage. But when it first came out, fans were going, oh, that's not a cage match. That's bullshit. NWA fans especially shit all over WWE, That was the original AEW versus WWE shit,
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big difference. Like the NWA, especially, they presented cage matches a lot more seriously than WWF did, right? Like
100%.
Cage matches and the NWA, they never had escape from the cage. That was all a WWF thing.
And this is my next thing I want to talk about. The Big Blue was the only cage that was exclusively escape only. Okay. When WWE went back to mesh cages in the early 2000s, they started incorporating pinfalls again.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. I didn't really think about that.
Now, you and I kind of differ on this because I know that you're not a big fan of escape only. But let me talk about this for a second and say why I like it. I like it even more knowing that it was almost exclusively to this blue cage because it just makes it different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a different match altogether now for me. And also I like your take on it because you're like, listen, a cage match should be keep those motherfuckers in, don't let them out, and do your shit in the ring. Where the blue cage is like, okay, you guys do that over there, but we're gonna do this thing where we're gonna beat the fuck out of each other so bad that somebody's gonna have to fucking try to get it. It was just a different story.
The psychology, there is
two different. Exactly, perfect word. It's two different stories being told, two different sets of psychology, and I like that.
Like there is the psychology in regards of like in that type of a cage match, you can't win until you beat your opponent so bad that they can't stop you from leaving the cage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't think a lot of people look at it that way. But for me, I just personally like the idea, and it also does add a different dramatic to cage matches that, and you know, Brett and Owen, I'm sure that it'll be on your list at some point, but Brett and Owen at SummerSlam 94 is a great example of that. They built that entire match around constantly trying to escape, and it builds your crowd up. It's a great spot. It's a great suspense spot. Like, whereas the NWA, you know, you look at like Talia Magnum, like the NWA was violent. You're going in a cage match because this is a blood feud and it needs to end with violence. So, you know, I can respect both levels of psychology. I prefer the NWA one better, but doesn't mean that I hate on Big Blue either.
If my list was pure cage matches, my criteria may be a little bit differently, maybe a bit different. I may look more at the violent aspect. I may look more at the actual wrestling performance. With my Big Blue list, I'm looking more at the psychology, the drama, and the story.
Well, there was
never
a lot of blood in Big Blues. Never a lot of blood in the Big Blue matches.
Look at the era, though. They weren't doing blood from 86 to 99.
Well, in the 80s they were. They stopped doing blood in the mid-90s.
Was there a ton of blood from 86 to 90? Like, not a whole lot.
No, the WWE was never. Well, they did in the 80s up until probably 1991, maybe, is when they kind of stopped doing blade jobs.
From 86 to 2000, from 86 to 90, there's not a whole lot of Big Blue matches, anyways.
Yeah.
They were used very sparsely. It's not like the Attitude Era where, you know, every second match was a fucking cage match.
I watched Al Snow and Jeff Hardy have a cage match for no reason on Monday Night Raw in 1999.
And that's another part of my criteria is the story of it. I want these fuckers in the cage for a reason. All right?
That could change the way I look at your list then. If that's part of your criteria.
There's only one match on here that I may have to really justify because it might go against that criteria, but all other 6 matches, they're in that match to settle shit, and that's what I want. My last little note here before we get into the list, we're going back to talk about the escape only clause. Did you know that used to be a thing in the territories here and there? Like there was different territories that you do the escape only. But Vince Sr. brought it in for one reason and one reason only. You know what that reason was?
Don't.
To protect Bruno.
Okay.
He didn't want Bruno getting pinned in cage matches.
I don't think Bruno lost many cage matches.
I don't think so either. But I think maybe he made that rule just in case he ever had to book Bruno to lose, or maybe there was a thing where I have to have Bruno win, but he's up against, let's say, Roddy Piper, and Roddy Piper won't get pinned, so I have to make Bruno climb. Yep. You know, so he did it. He did it basically to make sure that Bruno got over properly.
Yeah. Well, what do you
think? All right, man.
You want to hit us with the old number 7? No, I think I'm ready to roll this. I'm ready to hear the old number 7.
Yeah, my number 7 is the cage matches theme music.
Bum 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 bum.
Remember they used to do the fucking spotlight and it was coming down and they would make it all ominous and shit. Did they do that for cages or just for the Hell in the Cell?
They do for cages as well.
Yeah.
And also for backstage walking. Same music.
Right. So my number 7, I'm gonna flat out say this. You're gonna hate my 6 and 7, and I don't give a shit. You'll love my 1 through 5. You're gonna give me shit for 6, 7. I really don't care. But my number 7 changed 6, 7 times before we got on air. As you know, it's the curse of the number 7. The funny thing is they both have one thing in common. The 2 matches that were going back and forth. Either way, the match we were talking about finished with a guy coming up from under the ring. My number 7 was almost In Your House 6, Brett versus Diesel, but it got edged out for St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon.
I am surprised that this is your number 7 and not like in the top 4, 3.
Okay, do you want to know what kept it out?
Yeah.
That match is 20 minutes long. They spent 6 of them in the steel cage.
Doesn't matter.
It does to me.
That match.
It's a fucking cage match. You beat each other up around the ring for 11 minutes before you even rang the fucking bell. I love it enough for it to make the list, but it couldn't get any higher because of the lack of time in the actual cage.
I mean, that match gets put in my top probably 4 or 5 just based on Vince's bump alone.
Right.
But I love that. I love this match. Like, I have great memories of this match. Is
that the match where that's the bump where he broke his tailbone, right?
Yeah, his collarbone or whatever. Yeah, he fucked himself up.
It was his ass bone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because he fell ass first on the table.
Yeah, and he took that huge bump off the top of the cage to the table, which was insane. Massive whiplash, broke his tailbone, like you said. I like the psychology in that match of Steve Austin just had fun. He whooped Vince's ass from pillar to post, and then he would like start to leave the cage. And what would Vince do? He'd flip him the bird. And Austin would be like, "Oh, I'm coming back down. Whoop your ass a little more." And then, you get the debut of the Big Show. And I really like the finish too, because it was just like, yeah, Big Show threw him through the cage. So put over Big Show as being this beast, gave Austin a win. And, Vince was like, what the fuck? Like, it was perfectly booked.
The look on Steve Austin's face when his feet hit the ground was priceless.
Oh, yeah.
It was a mix of holy fuck, I won, and holy fuck, I just got manhandled by a fucking monster.
He took a hard fall off the floor because that cage was swinging. He had to like drop down and stuff. Yeah. I don't hate this being on your list at all. I'm surprised with the placement of it, but.
See, I thought you were going to give me shit for the same reason I was giving myself shit, because of the lack of the time in the ring.
I don't give a shit if they're in the ring for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. That was a great match.
Well, if they were in the ring longer, this probably would have been like my number 3.
I don't think it would have been. I think if they were in the ring longer, it would have made the match worse because it's Vince.
But again, you know me, I'm more into storytelling than wrestling, and nobody could tell a story like Vince, man.
Yeah, that's why this match is great. Yeah. They told a great story, whether or not they were in the cage or not. Great story.
Yes, but this is about cage matches.
So it's still a cage match.
So instead of you ever giving me when you go on the list and you're like, "Wow, that was a good match," but Vince and Austin should be ahead of it. That's why it's my number 7. It's the only reason it's my number 7.
We'll see if it's more memorable than any of the other ones you mentioned, because I didn't rewatch any matches leading up to this list because you told me about it this morning and I did not have any time to watch it. So let's just see what triggers my memories. What's what we're going with today? Memories.
My number 6. Again, while it's not a bad match by any means, it's also not a great match, but the story being told is so important to the era, to the things going around during the time, and it's a phenomenally fun match storyline wise. If you haven't seen it in a long time, you have to go back. We're going back to March of 1997 on an edition of Raw's War, where Bret Hart takes on Bret Hart defends his championship, I should say, against Psycho Sid.
Was Bret the champion here? No, Sid was the champion here.
No, he won it. Sid wins it here. He won it at the He won it at the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view there.
You
And
got the time period right, but you're mixing up matches. Sid,
No, because this match is about who's gonna
yeah.
who's gonna be champion going into WrestleMania.
Brett won the title at In Your House Final 4. He lost it the next night to Sid, but it was a normal match.
Is that the match he lost it?
He lost it to Sid in the normal match.
Okay, my bad.
And then they got
the week later.
And then a couple weeks later they did the cage match. And this was one of the first like Raw is Wars as well. And this is the one with Austin trying to help Brett win and
helping Brett and Taker's helping Sid
because they both want the title match.
Exactly. It's a great story. And then what's more memorable about the actual match, and I'll be honest about this, is after the match when Brett shows his fucking pure crybaby self, which I love because this is the slow start to that character we're going to see come out after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, he'd already been talking about getting screwed since January, right? So now February coming into March.
It's all also, if you really think about it, possibly the genesis of the Mr. McMahon character. You know, because Brett shoves him down and swears at him, and the look on his face. He goes from being that mild-mannered commentator we've known our entire childhoods, and you saw that look changed on his face.
Oh yeah,
and that was the first time we saw the face of Mr. McMahon. We just didn't know it yet.
Everybody in that goddamn dressing room knows that I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I love it. Great line.
Great moment. The match itself. I mean, Sid didn't have great matches, but Brett did have a match with Sid and have it look really good. I mean, if I'm Sid, I'm afraid of going up. Well, I guess he hadn't broken his leg yet. As I say, I wouldn't want to climb that thing if I was Sid, but he hadn't broken his leg yet, so he didn't know.
What was so good about this Brett turn too is that everything he was saying was right. He was getting screwed every week. He got screwed at the Royal Rumble by Austin. Austin screwed him out of the title the next week. He got screwed at this match. He got, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't wrong.
And it was this fantastic slow build to that heel turn that we're going to see just a few weeks later at WrestleMania.
Oh, the night after WrestleMania when he cut that promo, when he's thanking all his fans all over the world. Thank you to Germany, the United Kingdom for letting me be your hero. Tells America to kiss his ass. Fuck, that's one of the best promos of all time.
That's why I say, man, 97 is my favorite year in professional wrestling. It's just,
I do love it.
I could talk about this all. My original idea was not even to do a list today. I just wanted to talk about SummerSlam 97 being, I'll never call it the best SummerSlam of all time. I'm not dumb,
but it's really good.
But it's my favorite SummerSlam of all time.
I mean, I'm really glad that I almost watched SummerSlam 97 because that's what you told me the list was going to be this week. I'm really glad I didn't now because it's hard to find 3 hours of time to sit down and watch a pay-per-view.
That's the funny thing. It wasn't even 3 hours. That was back in the day where you didn't need 9 hours for a pay-per-view. Fucking SummerSlam 97's 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's amazing. Love it. Yeah. Moving on to my number 5, our first appearance of the Big Black Cage, and I forgot to mention this in my background information. Did you know that cage that they built for WrestleMania 2 is the same cage they used for the next 20 years?
Yeah, I thought
they never changed it. There was never anything. So if you go all the way to I think it's a breakdown pay-per-view in 1998 or something.
7, 6, 8,
even at SummerSlam 97, you could see the paint is chipping, it's rusting, it looks like shit now because it's the same fucking cage they've always had. They've never changed it. So going into 1999, they're going into the Attitude Era. They need a bit more edginess. They wanted to make this thing needs a fucking paint job anyways, so they painted it black.
Yeah.
This is why it still counts on my list because it's the same fucking cage. It just got a paint job.
Well, that's also the second appearance of Big Black because Vincent Austin was in black.
Yes, I'm sorry. What I meant was it's the first. Oh, It is the second appearance on my list. Okay, never mind. You're right. So second appearance with Big Black on my. I'm not saying Big Black anymore.
Easy hard, Mike.
My number 5. We're going to Rebellion of 1999. We're going all the way to the UK for The Rock versus Triple H.
These guys had a couple good cage matches around this time period in the Big Black. I remember they had a really good one on Monday Night Raw as well.
I wish I would have watched it because maybe it would have been better than this. This was a good match. I just hate the finish, and that's why it couldn't be any higher than number 5. It got too much of a clusterfuck at the end. Listen, Bret and Sid turned into a clusterfuck too, but it made sense. It was like that's what that story was. They put that cage around Bret and Shawn to keep Steve Austin and Undertaker from interfering. That's why they did that story. This story, what the fuck was Bulldog do? I don't understand anything about the end of this match.
Bulldog was feuding with Rock at this time period.
Yes, he was. I liked the fact at first that, you know, Triple H is trying to get out of the cage. There's a chair sitting right next to the cage, and he grabs it. And he's trying to pull it in. Earl Hebner is trying to stop him. Now, number 1, fuck off, Hebner.
Cage match, no DQ.
It's a cage match. Go fuck yourself. But
yeah, go screw Bret again.
You know, Triple H got pissed off. Death Hebner. So now you have no ref, which now allows your Rock to get out of the ring. No ref, no win. They can beat the shit out of each other all over the place. It allows Bulldog to get in the ring. Now you have 3 guys beat the shit out of each other in the ring. I love this match up until this spot. I like even the beating the shit out of each other around. I like that a lot. But now Bulldog's involved. Bulldog's involvement takes me out of it, which is why it's only my number 5.
That's fair. I don't remember anything about this match, so I can't really comment on it. I remember it being good. I just don't remember much about it.
My number 4 is the only match on my list that I've never seen before today. And I'm so happy I watched it because, man, it was so good. Obviously good enough to be my number 4 favorite match on this list. And we're going to start now, finally, talking about SummerSlam. Kind of. We're going to 1993 and the SummerSlam Spectacular, which was an on-TV show building up to SummerSlam. And we're doing the Steiners versus Money Inc. Have you seen this match?
Once a long time ago.
Yeah, go rewatch it. It's good.
I mean, these guys had
really
super
good.
Underrated matches.
The match criteria is both men have to get out of the ring in order to win the match, which is fantastic because there's a lot of, it opens a lot of doors for cool spots. You know what I mean? Cool taking stuff. And the very end, you have what's his name? Irwin R. Shyster trying to get out of the ring, and Rick gets out before him, so he gets on Rick's shoulders, and Rick's not letting him off his shoulders. And DiBiase gets out on one side, so DiBiase's already out. But as Irwin's trying to get off, as IRS trying to get off the Gremlin's shoulders, they give Scotty enough chance to jump out and get the win. It's fantastic. I love it. It's a very, very, very fun match.
Very clever booking. This is number 3?
Yeah.
I'll have to check this one out.
This is my number 4.
Okay, good. I was going to say, hold on. We're missing a few here. But yeah,
this is my number 4.
I remember having fond memories of this match, and I would really like to go back and rewatch it. Actually, you might have inspired me to do that. So I love the Steiner brothers in the early '90s, and Money Inc. I think they're one of the most. I think I did label them my number 1 most underrated or underappreciated in some kind of list that we did.
Yeah, you sure did that at some point. Going to top 3, we're sticking with SummerSlam, and we're going to the year that I loved so much. We're going to 1997. And it's Triple H versus Mankind.
Yeah, great match.
I absolutely fucking love this match.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. This was a fucking banger. This was a great feud, too.
I won't lie, when I started this match, I penciled it as my number one right off the bat because I just love it so much, knowing full well it wouldn't stay there. But I'm like, yep, this is just, it's one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. It's one of my favorite SummerSlam matches of all time. Triple H was just so fucking good at this time. He was this is funny to say because you'd never think to use this word for Triple H, but he was very underrated in '97.
Well, because he just finished getting buried, right, for 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So this story with Mick Foley, you and I have discussed this all the time, how Mick Foley made Triple H. This is the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Like before the Cactus Jack, the game thing, like years later, it started here. They've had several great stories together. And this was their first great story.
This was their third pay-per-view match, right? Because they did King of the Ring, then they did Canadian Stampede, which was that wild brawl all over the building, which is why they got booked in a cage match. And then a couple months later, Triple H was also involved in the debut of Cactus Jack.
That's right. And in this match here, he teased the debut of Dude Love.
That is correct, except the heart wore off his chest. So you ever hear that story?
No, but you can tell. But yeah, I never heard the story though.
So Foley, like the plan finish was he was gonna rip his shirt open. There's gonna be a big heart that said "Dude Love" on it, and then he was gonna do the Superfly Splash because that made sense with the story. And then he was gonna be Dude Love on his exit out of the ring. And he didn't use the right type of marker on his chest. He used just like a normal marker, so all the sweat rubbed the whole thing off, and it wasn't there. But they still made it work.
Absolutely. Mankind, Mick Foley has said that the spot where China slams the door on his head is one of the most painful things he's ever endured in the ring. And that's fucking saying something. This is Mick Foley you're talking about here.
I think it gave him a stinger.
Well, we discussed earlier how the wrestlers hated this ring because it gave no give. So imagine those steel bars just slamming. And China had strength. China's swinging that door. It's swinging hard.
Oh, big
right?
time. I like the placement on this one.
Good. It was almost my number two until I rewatched my number two. The match we're about to talk about was originally penciled in for my 5 or 6 position because I remember it being good, but I thought it was like a 5 or 6. Then I sat down and I watched it yesterday. Holy fuck, I can't believe how good this match is considering I really don't like 50% of the performers. We're going to SummerSlam of 1990 with Rick Rude versus the Ultimate Warrior.
I remember this match being good. This is on my list of matches that I really want to rewatch, actually.
Way better than I remember. Warrior actually had me. Like, I'm not a Warrior fan. You know that. And I wasn't a Warrior fan. But this match, maybe it's not Warrior. Maybe just Rude is that good of a fucking heel. And Bobby Heenan is that good of a fucking heel. So that when Ultimate Warrior pulls Bobby into the ring, like I'm going, get that fucking weasel. You know what I mean? Like, it's so good, man. The dynamic of this story. And these guys, that's the other thing. These guys had a long story. They wrestled against each other exactly a year earlier at SummerSlam.
That's right. And at WrestleMania 5.
And at WrestleMania 5. And now it's for the world title in a cage. It's a very personal story. The cage is a great blow up to this. Like, it's a great place to have this happen. A little out of character for Warrior, but I loved it. When Warrior, I don't know if you remember the finish to this, but he basically dazed Rick, and Rick's like kind of dazing around like this. And by the time he turns around and looks, Warrior's already up and over. And as he's coming down, Warrior stays. He looks like he starts gyrating his hips like that.
Yeah, does the Rick Rude and jumps down.
Fucking amazing. Like that's got a little out of character for Warrior, but I loved every second of it.
I remember watching this match in the 90s, like when it came out on VHS, and thinking that the Ultimate Warrior lost a tooth, but really it was just the way that his paint was hanging off his face. Like, that's like a memory I have. Like, he had like a white chip just like dangling. I was like, oh my God, he lost his teeth. As a kid, I was like in kindergarten.
That's how I felt every time watching Owen Hart wrestle, and then it was always just spit.
Yeah. And
Owen always had that ball of spit.
I remember the vignettes leading up to this match. Like, they really changed the way they presented Rick Rude. He got a lot more serious. They were training him like Rocky Balboa, running on the beach, hitting the boxing bags. Like, they're really presenting him as more of a badass compared to like what he was before.
Yeah.
Because I remember that it was really like weird because Rude hadn't done much leading up to this.
And they let him sort of swear too on his promo when he got to the ring, like for 1990, anyways. When he comes out, and instead of calling out them all a bunch of sweat hogs or whatever the fuck it was he used to call them, he called them piss ants. And I'm just like, fucking Rick going hard in 1990.
This is actually a very underrated SummerSlam. 1990.
Oh, 1990 is a great SummerSlam. I like 1990.
Very underrated SummerSlam. Like, if you take a look at that whole card, the great Power and Glory Rockers angle at the beginning with Sean's knee. You got Perfect and Tornado for the IC title. The Hart Foundation and Demolition, 2 out of 3 falls, is one of the best matches in SummerSlam history. Yeah, it's good. This is a good one.
It's too late to start working on it now, but maybe next year you and I will do what we did with WrestleMania a couple of years ago, and we'll do a weekly top 7 list for SummerSlam.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good. I mean, we could still cram it in, but we'd have to fight a lot. Well, you know what? We didn't fight that much for WrestleMania.
Speaking of which, before we go into number 1, happy anniversary.
For us, that's right. We launched our show 3 years ago this week. No, that's a lie. What? I don't know what I'm doing.
We launched our show in March. By the time this show airs, it'll be the 1-year anniversary of you claiming I have no credibility, and probably the worst fight in the history of this show.
That's a great moment in the show. For the record, I did not say that you had no credibility. I said...
You realize that this is your version of, we were on a break!
No, and if you go back and rewatch it, as I have many times, it's a great moment in the show. I don't say that you have no credibility. I said when you say stupid things like that, it makes you lose your credibility.
I hate you so fucking much. This is the only time in history I got several messages and text messages from listeners saying, fuck, man, are you guys done? Like, is it over?
We were just laughing about it 20 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we got off air. You're like, you fucking really pissed me off today.
Well, I mean, if you and I did come to blows, it wouldn't be the first time the two brothers had to fucking fight it out. Which brings me to my number 1. And in SummerSlam of 1994, 2 brothers came to blows for the World Wrestling Federation Championship and the Big Blue Steel Cage. And of course, we're talking about Bret versus his baby brother, Owen.
I have an unpopular opinion, but this isn't my favorite match of all time.
Well, it's not my favorite match of all time too, either, but it's definitely my favorite match to happen in Big Blue.
I'd have to go back and rewatch a couple other ones. I don't know. No. Okay, like, listen.
All right. Because I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to have 10 honorable mentions for you when this is over. And I want you to fucking tell me how you changed this list. And at the very least, you put it on your list, yeah?
Yeah, I probably would put it on my number 1. But I do think
I was going to say, have we?
It'd be my number 1 or number 2. It'd be my number 1 or number 2. I really do love Vince and Austin. I just think it's a powerful match. I do. I'm serious. I love that match. It would make it. I would make a case for Triple H and Mankind to be my number 1 as well.
I mean, it was close to being my number 1 as well. But Bret and Owen,
it's just different.
I go back and forth, which is funny because of what you just said about the other match that you put in. I always go back and forth on what I believe is the greatest story ever told in wrestling history, especially WWF history, and it's either Austin McMahon or it's Bret and Owen. Those are my 2 favorite stories ever told. So it's funny that those are the 2 matches we're contesting here.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the reason it's my number 1. That story is so good.
I just feel like this match is very Like the whole match is just them trying to run out of the cage. The entire match, as from what I remember about it, at least I haven't watched in a few years. I like this match when I'm in the right
that
mood for it. When
in
I'm
this
in the
match
right
it
mood
makes sense.
for it. Why no? I just like I thought there was going to be a little bit more hatred. Like I think the intensity should have been a little higher than run away, run away.
Now
Like Owen was
I
being
don't
chicken
know if this
shit.
is Owen was being a chicken shit, and Brett doesn't want to hurt his baby brother, so it makes sense to why they're doing that. Now, with that said, the hatred should have came a little later on for the next couple matches that just never fucking happened. This shouldn't have been the blow off as far as I'm concerned. Also, if you're gonna ask me, and this I don't know if this is unpopular opinion or not, you can tell me. I think the wrong man won that night.
You think they should put Owen
I
over?
think I think you put the title on Owen for a short period of time.
I mean, you could have just had Owen job to Diesel.
And have the WrestleMania 11 main event be Brett getting his title back.
I mean, if you take a look at it in hindsight, it makes more sense. At the very least, have these guys fight on the undercard. Because I do think that they were going to put the belt on Diesel no matter what, and I think at that time it was the right call. Diesel was showing a lot of promise. Hindsight, of course, being 2020, but
yeah,
I mean, if you rebook that card and you keep Shawn and Diesel for the world title and put Brett and Owen on the undercard, like that, WrestleMania is already 100 times better.
I would have liked to seen a 5-match series between Owen and Brett, and have Brett get the 3-2. I would have liked to seen Owen win the cage match, Brett get a title match at whatever show, lose via disqualification or count out or something.
Winning 3 matches though.
Or no, sorry, Owen losing via disqualification to keep the title.
Yeah.
Then again, Owen wins again, and then WrestleMania happens where Brett beats him.
Yeah.
That's what I would have liked to see.
I'd be okay with that. There are a couple. There's one big match though that I'm surprised isn't on your list.
Okay, I got a bunch of honorable mentions that I can justify in almost every single one of them why they didn't make the list. There might be a couple on here that I'm like, yeah, maybe, but let's talk about them. What do you got?
I don't think that you have the most memorable moment in Big Blue on your list.
WrestleMania 2?
No, Hogan.
No, good.
Hogan and Mr. Wonderful.
Okay, it's on my honorable mentions. It was a great match for drama. The match sucks.
Yeah, but I mean,
when was the last time you watched this match? This match is garbage.
I mean, it is probably the most famous moment in Big Blue history, though. Does that not warrant it a number 7 spot?
No, not against the 7 matches I put.
I would keep Vince on. What was your number 6 again?
Brett and Sid.
Yeah, I might bump that one for this one. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Breakdown
that match lately. From a dramatic standpoint, yes, you're right, but nah.
I just think that's like a historical moment. If you're talking about Big Blue, that deserves a tip. What about Breakdown? I remember that match being really good. The triple threat.
That was Shamrock, Rock, and
Foley.
Foley, yeah. I won't lie to you, man. I fell asleep during it.
Now, is that because of what time you put it on, or because the match sucked?
Yes.
The match sucked? What time you put it on?
Little from column A, little from column B.
That's fair.
Yeah. It wasn't never going to make the list.
What about Hogan and Boss Man? They had a couple good ones in the cage.
Hogan and Boss Man, I don't remember them of a couple. The one I watched was from Saturday night's main event.
Okay, that's why.
And it was okay.
Why? They had the debut of Zeus.
I also have the No Holds Barred special match between Hogan and Zeus.
Hey, that promo that Sherry cuts before, though.
Let's go to Saturday night's main event, and we're going to hit Randy Savage versus the Honky Tonk Man.
I don't remember much. I've never seen this match before. I didn't know they had one.
It's a good one. We're going to the Coliseum home video WrestleFest with Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant.
Okay, this one was fun.
Yeah, it's a really fun match. I got 2 matches for you right now. on paper, you'd say, why the fuck aren't those on the list? And they just aren't. I have no reason for it, but on paper, you're like, these are list-worthy matches. They both come from superstars, I believe, both in 1995. One is Brett versus Shawn Michaels. That might be 1994, actually. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And the other one is Brett versus Hakushi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Brett versus Yoko cage match?
Yes. Not great.
No,
not great. And my very last honorable mention is Rebellion, as you corrected me, 2001 with Edge versus Christian.
I remember being let down by this match.
Yeah, I expected a lot from it, and I did not get my expectations. The finish was far too reminiscent to 1994. I don't know if it was just an homage or what, but it just came off as a ripoff, and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Do you have any that maybe I missed?
I can't remember if it's on YouTube or not, but Piper and Rude at Madison Square Garden had a good one.
Wow, I don't, was that, yeah? Okay, I don't even have that on my watch list. Wow, okay. I didn't
It's
know
from
that existed.
89. It was from 1989. Hogan and Boss Man, I know we kind of talked about before our technical issues came out. They had a really good Madison Square Garden one, not so much Saturday Night Live main event one. And yeah, I'd have to go back. Oh, what about Hogan and Bundy?
That is an honorable mention just because it's the first one. It's not a great match. I mean, it's
funny that's rated number 1 in a couple of lists that I was looking at. That's why we're the professionals and they're not.
Yeah, I don't know whoever would rank that as number 1 anything. Like, that's not even a top 100 favorite WrestleMania match for me.
Could be like number 1 worst WrestleMania main events of all time.
Man,
yep, be up there.
That's a tough list, but that might be a list.
That could be a list. I'll do a SummerSlam list next week.
Yeah, I'd be excited for a SummerSlam list. I have no idea what WWE's doing with SummerSlam this year. I'm not watching WWE right now. But
card looks really good.
But SummerSlam always gets me excited. It is summer's WrestleMania, so but I like it for the show purposes because it gives us reason to talk about SummerSlam. So and that's why I did this cage match list, because look at that. We had 3 SummerSlam, like on my number 7, my top 7. My top 3 were all SummerSlam matches, and my number 4 was from SummerSlam Spectacular. So that tells you something about SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think there's a theme there. I'm gonna do a fun SummerSlam list next week, or a mediocre one. I don't know, but I'm gonna do a SummerSlam list.
Who's when I mentioned the big blue cage, who's the wrestler you think of first?
Hogan.
Brett?
No,
Hogan.
Yeah.
Okay, I think for me it's Brett, just because like in that era, he used to like push home all the time his record in cage matches, because he had a really good record in cage matches, and he talked about it every single time he could. So I think that it's ingrained in my brain.
I just picture Hogan standing on top, ripping the shirt. Oh, brother.
Another thing I want to mention about the big blue cage before we say goodbye is I can't remember the name of it now, which sucks, but I remember having it as a kid. It did influence one of my favorite video games as a child. Do you remember that cage match Nintendo game?
The one that was on like Sega Saturn or something.
Yes. Oh no, it was on Saturn. It was on Genesis, I think.
No, not the cage match one.
Well, I never owned a Saturn, so
there was a game called Steel Cage Match,
but
there was cage matches on like the Segas.
I don't know why I thought it was for the Genesis, because I had a Genesis. I didn't have a Saturn.
There was cage match option in those, like the Raw stuff. But there was actually a game called Steel Cage Match.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and Big Blue made its big appearance in the video game.
I like those games are sick.
All right, so we got SummerSlam, we got the fact that we are making our live debut on September 9th in Barrie, and we'll hit you with all the details for that coming up in the next few weeks. Listen to me. I mean this. If you want to see us live, even if you've never been to a Barrie wrestling show, but you're friends of ours, friends of the show, you're listening to the show and you want to see us, get your tickets. Don't wait. Don't be like, oh, it's just counted out. We'll get tickets easy. It's not counted out. This is not a counted out show. We just happen to be there. This is a Barrie wrestling show, and it's the biggest show of the year. Get your tickets now. Now. This show will sell out. I promise you. I promise you this show will sell out. I wouldn't be surprised if the front row is already sold out as we speak.
Pretty sure.
So, and it's not even August yet. So get your fucking tickets now if you want to see Canada Out Live. We're going to be talking to at least one wrestler during the show. We'll tell you who that is in a week or two. But we're going to have a good time, man. It's always a good time in Barrie.
It is. It's going to be a good time this weekend at Barrie at Kempen Fest. I'm really excited for that. And, of course, Rock Solid Wrestling on the 19th is coming up very fast. SummerSlam is also this Saturday, which is crazy. Like, I'm excited. It's going to be a good weekend.
And there's one more wrestler we haven't had on the show. We're going to get on the show sooner than later. The hottest new wrestler on the indie scene. Let's get Wilson on the show sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Love Wilson. Take us home, buddy.
We got to talk to him before he gets famous and forgets about us.
Oh, yeah. He's already forgotten about us.
And on behalf of the debuting Wilson, the great shows coming up in August and September, and of course, old Blue himself, the big blue cage. We have been counted out.
Cheers.